Well, I'm so excited to be here with you today, Jesse. Those of you watching, I just completed a 3-month program with Jessie, and she's here to just share a little bit more about what the experience was like for her, a little bit about where she was at when she started this journey and the transformation and growth that she's experienced, as well as share some insights with you about some of the pieces that really fit the puzzle for her that were missing before, and what's been most helpful. Also, maybe answer any questions that you may have if you're considering working with a coach or maybe even working with me. So Jesse, thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm glad that we get to continue having conversations, even though you graduated from the container last week. It's always so nice to be able to have these conversations as like a final celebration of everything that happened during the container. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me back.
Of course. So, Jesse, I'm wondering if you can just share a little bit about where you were at before you started this coaching program and where you're at now. What were some of the key pieces that you were wanting to focus on, and how did it shift for you over the course of the last 3 months?
So I think one of the key things that happened before I came to you was that I ended a 6-year relationship with my partner. And after that, I think I just felt really, really lost in like where I was going with life. And I felt like I was just like in a rut, like somewhere where I was like stuck, and I felt like I wasn't progressing. And I think I just needed help to like get over the hump and like figure out who I was and have more confidence, and just grow.
Mm-hmm. And where were you specifically seeking the most growth?
Um, Honestly, in all aspects of life, but I think ultimately I wanted to progress in like my workplace, like professionally, because I feel like that is um, like my professional life is me. That's all me, you know. And so I think I thought if I developed in my professional life, then I think everything would have like fell into place.
Yeah. And so as you were moving through the program and you think about like where you're at now, how has that been impacted, like your growth in your career and the things that you were specifically looking for support around?
Um, Ultimately, I wanted to um, grow professionally in a sense that I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Give me a minute. Yeah, I guess like grow professionally so that I felt confident in what I did and I have an idea where I wanted my career path to go.
Hmm. And how has that unfolded for you? Do you feel like you've made any progress towards that goal through the course of this program in terms of like your confidence, for example?
Yeah, so a big thing that we did throughout my sessions with you is getting on those job applications and like really putting myself out there in the job market, going to interviews, putting in applications, and also networking as well. So that's definitely something I focused on. The thing with me was that I felt too shy of some sort to apply to these jobs where I didn't feel like I was completely qualified. And then when I was applying, I felt that um, that thing inside me that was like, oh, I don't know, like where I didn't feel confident to like actually pull the trigger and hit send on the application, and just feeling that my application was not enough and trying to be a perfectionist about making sure everything is right, perfect cover letter, perfect resume, but in reality, you just need to submit your application.
Yeah. What would you say is like the difference between like before we started working together and how you were approaching applications to what it was like when we were working together?
Um, I was definitely before you, I was definitely on the thing where it's like it needs to be completely perfect. And it was taking me a very, very long time to work on a single application where it almost felt like it was a full-time job just to apply to just to fill out applications. I
Mhm.
would say I was doing like it was taking me like 2 weeks to do a single application.
Mm.
And a lot of the times by then the job posting will be taken down or what have you. But I felt like with you, I was doing about one a week or one every 2 weeks, but I definitely felt that less of a need to make it perfect, where it's like done is better than perfect. And I feel like that's something I kind of learned throughout this journey,
Mhm.
where it's just better to do it than make it perfect.
Mhm. What do you think was like what made the biggest difference for you as you were doing that?
Um, I guess just realizing that um, I don't know. I don't know. Can you rephrase the question, I guess?
Yeah, yeah, and you can take your time to think about it too, but was there like one thing that was just like a game changer for you when it came to like your confidence at work or the applications you were doing?
Um, I think figuring out a schedule
Mm.
that works best with me. And what we had figured out was during the week, I would look for jobs to apply to. And then over the weekend is when I could actually do the applications.
Mhm.
And then also a schedule where I do a rough draft of the resume and then a rough draft of my cover letter, and then come back to my resume to make it complete. And then go back to the cover letter to do the final draft of it. And so I felt like that system really worked out.
Yeah, I know you were
Because
sharing. Oh, go ahead.
oh yeah, because before I was kind of just doing all like making the resume 100% perfect, but in reality, it would take time away from even starting the cover letter.
Hmm. Right. And I think we uncovered in some of our work together that some of that like perfectionism is actually kind of like almost a self protection measure sometimes where we procrastinate a little bit or take longer on things because we're uncomfortable with putting ourselves out there. And so you really approached that so beautifully and like really challenged some of those beliefs around perfectionism and recognizing that it's not necessarily like a reflection of who you are and that like you're going to be rewarded by taking action and not delaying by like tweaking every last detail.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that was real, like you were mentioning around the schedule, is that we realize that you're a highly sensitive person, and that requires a different approach, and that we got to be really strategic about how we structure your time in a way that works for you. And I know you weren't just working on career stuff; you had other goals as well, like regarding your health and fitness goals and things that you wanted to continue to prioritize. And so it was really fun to watch you experiment with different strategies of structuring your schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. That was also, I feel like that is definitely the part where I excelled at the most out of all the things we were addressing during our sessions. Yeah, I feel like my health is definitely like the highlight of everything.
Yeah. Was there
Yeah.
anything surprising to you in terms of your own transformation?
Um, the health part, oh my gosh. Okay, so before I came to you, I could not run a single minute continuously. Like I literally could not run for the life of me. And then throughout our sessions, I would go on longer and longer runs more and more frequently. And today, actually, I went actually the past 2 days, I've been going on morning runs and they've been about like 15-20 minutes. Today specifically, I actually ran around my neighborhood and ended up picking up a bagel. So that was my little reward. So I felt like I had a really productive day, like just today.
That's so amazing. And I also remember when we first started, like sleep was a really big thing for you. And we also realized that that might have been tying in a bit to the high sensitivity and getting you on like figuring out like what routine was going to work for you so that you could get to sleep at a reasonable time and get enough hours of sleep so you could actually be effective the following day. And I remember you used to like drag yourself out of bed. So the idea that you're like waking up in the morning and like going for a run and grabbing a bagel, like that's just so incredible.
Yeah, it's so insane to me. Just seeing the progress just in health is so crazy. And I think also like incorporating running has definitely helped with like my overall anxiety.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I feel like it's more manageable. I don't feel as anxious that often.
Yeah, that's huge, right? Like how much easier does that make life?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, another question I wanted to ask you is what was it like to be coached?
So this is probably my first time doing any sort of like therapy or coaching
Mhm.
for like a longer term, I guess. I was really good. It was really interesting. So I had an open mind of like, um, or I guess I didn't have any expectations for the session. So I thought it was really helpful just really just learning about myself from like an outsider's perspective and like professional's perspective, because I think I just always got wrapped in my head like this is just how I am, like there's like this is just me. But in reality, there was a lot of mind blocks that I needed to work through, um and then knowing that it's there and finding or learning coping mechanisms for them was really helpful.
Yeah, yeah. and and you showed up, fully to each session too, and I want to like celebrate that in you, is that like you came and just like told me exactly where you were at and what was going on and where you were getting stuck, which is so critical in being able to get that support, right? Is like we have to be honest with ourselves and with our support system about like where we're excelling and maybe where we're still getting caught, so that we can like continue to hone in on like what is this piece that like what is this actually about, and like getting more clarity so that we can continue to remove those blocks that were in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any concerns when you were starting out, or like before you took the leap and decided to invest and go for it? Did you have any concerns either right before that period or as you were just starting out?
I think because I had never been coached or been to therapy, I was very hesitant. Like, is this really going to be worth it? It's only a few weeks. Like, can I actually make any real changes, real sustainable changes just in this small period of time? And then, surprise, I did.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that that's like a really honest reaction for anyone. And I've been in that position too. Like when you're like, I feel like I need to change something, but I like feel scary because I don't know what's going to happen. But then that reward, like when we fully show up and just say yes to something that we're feeling the pull for, like when something's feeling like like this feels like something important, like the magic that happens from that place, from that embodied yes, like that's where it starts, is that decision. And you did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say to anyone that is thinking about getting into a program like this? Like if they were thinking about getting coaching or working with me even, what would be your advice, or what would you say to them?
I would say you should just go for it, but with the expectation that you get out what you put into it. If you're not willing to show up for yourself and be vulnerable and yeah, and talk about what am I saying? um, Speaking from a vulnerable place, then you won't get as much out of it as you could.
Mhm. Did you have any fears? I want to go back. Did you have fears about your own ability to do that when you first started or right before you started?
I think in a sense because like I said, I've never been to therapy and it's like generally hard for me to open up, especially to strangers.
Mhm.
But of course, like that's just something that you have to do in order to get help.
Yeah. uh, What are the biggest wins or takeaways that you have from the experience?
Um, the biggest takeaway is um, being able to recognize that I am a sensitive person and that I do get these mental blocks that make me so wrapped up in my mind. But from my experience with you, I've learned how to unravel my thoughts and get out of my head and realize things are not that serious. It's just serious in my mind.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful reflection. And I think that's a beautiful place, a beautiful note to end on. So thank you so much for sharing again, like vulnerably and like being in leadership and being willing to share your experience and your story with other people so that they might feel the courage and get brave the way you were to do something new in a way that will really support them. So I'm going to hit stop and recording, but thank you so much.
Yeah.
um, okay. Actually, I don't know how to totally